Welcome, bass fishing fans of the internet, to day 3 coverage here on Lake Chickamauga. 204 anglers fished the first 2 days of this tournament, but only the top 50 advanced to fish today, and only 10 of them will be moving on to fish tomorrow, the 4th and final day of this super event for stop number 4 of the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit. Good morning, everyone. I'm Travis Moran alongside Red Gold Tomatoes Pro Todd Hollowell and MLF's Marty Stone. Guys, we thought this was going to be a ledge tournament, but day 1, the shallow water guys made a strong case. But then day 2, we saw those ledge guys creep back into things. Now that we have 150 less anglers on the water today, is this going to favor these ledge guys and just be a slugfest out there?
I absolutely think it's going to help them. You know, I'm not ready to completely throw in the towel yet, especially when you see what Jason Reyes has done in the shallow water. But losing the 150 anglers have now made a lot of these so-called community holes more open. When each angler makes a stop now, there's a good likelihood he's going to make a stop that these fish haven't been pressured as bad. It could play a major role.
Absolutely. And he brought up Reyes. Todd, why don't you talk about the two kind of storylines going on here, Floyd and Jason Reyes?
Yeah, big bags was really the story from day 2. If you've missed the first 2 days here on FLW Live, we saw some fireworks yesterday. We saw Jason Reyes drop 27 pounds. Floyd, a rookie on the FLW Pro Circuit this year, a guy who's dominated the college series, 26 pounds yesterday. We saw 11 bags over 20 pounds yesterday, and I'm pretty sure we're going to see a bunch more today. The fish population at Chickamauga is healthy. These guys are going to catch them. It's going to be a lot of fun.
And Lake Chickamauga, the playing field for this event. Todd, these anglers have really used the whole lake. Why don't you break down some of these key areas?
You know, guys could lock up the Watts Bar and lock down to Nickajack on the lower end, but listen, the key area on this fishery is that lower half of the lake. When you get to the Sequoia nuclear plant, anywhere from there to the Chickamauga Dam, that's just where the biggest fish population of these big F1 hybrids that have been in this lake for the last 10 or 12 years, that's just where they live, it's where they grow big, and that's really where you're going to see a lot of the guys here in the top 50 start to congregate. Areas like Soddy Creek, Sale Creek, the Chester, Frost, and Harrison Bay area, those are the key areas that we've seen the guys who are making a case for winning this event congregate so far here in the first 2 days.
And what we've seen also too is now we're looking at the playing field, but let's talk about the conditions, the weather. It's going to be one of the more stable days that they've had today. Highs of 84, lows somewhere around the 65 anglers are going to get first thing this morning. Partly cloudy skies, okay, light winds. It's going to allow, and Todd, I think one of the biggest deals yesterday would allow these anglers to catch fish. First day it was heavy winds out on that main river, and it didn't allow them to set up. But now the wind's going to die down. It's going to be light, and so they can really get to the ledges they want to. And one thing to keep in mind that we've heard anglers talk about all week long, especially the ones that are fishing offshore, is a generation schedule. This morning they're pushing about 13,000 cubic feet per second, which is a very small minimum current. Every day about 11, they crank it up to 20. Here's the magic number. Yesterday at 2 o'clock, they got it up to 30,000 cubic feet per second generating schedule. Will it happen sooner? Will it get to that 30,000? If it does, those guys is on the ledge that need that current's got a chance to wreck them.
Very nice. Now, Marty, we've used the term super tournament because for the next 3 events, we've added 56 MLF anglers, and this is the first of those 3. So all eyes have been on how these FLW anglers were going to compete against the MLF anglers, and how's it been so far?
Travis, that's a great point. So when I look at how, let's face it, okay, 2 groups, 1 house. All right, and when you put all the big kids in 1 house, there's going to be some competition. And right now, the MLF guys have got 3 of the top 10 spots, 19 out of the top 50, 39 out of the 56 made checks. And here's my takeaway. The FLW Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit anglers have more than held their own. And if this guy right here does, if one of those guys end up winning, a Cole Floyd or Jason Reyes, you can almost look back and go, okay, so the shot was fired. And a lot of folks from the outside truly thought that the Major League Fishing guys were going to come in and take all the checks. That hadn't been the case. It has been, if it's an arm wrestling match, I'd call it a draw right now.
Here's a guy we're going to talk about a lot here on day 3, Jacob Wheeler, a guy originally from Indiana, moved down here, calls Chickamauga his home. They've really been putting on a show so far over the first 2 days. Was our leader after day 1 with 24 pounds 9 ounces. Backed it up on day 2 with 22 pounds and 1 ounce. And I expect, Marty, Wheeler to have enough stuff to rotate through to keep going into days 3 and 4.
I 100% agree. Right now, he's not only the hottest angler on the planet, he's probably one of the best tacticians there is for managing the fish, managing his day. And then now we're looking at another angler that has put on a show for us this week, Travis.
Yep, been fishing slow. Once again, we talked about this being a ledge tournament, but Jason Reyes is showing a different side of things. Has been working real slow, soaking that Cinco, and been around just big quality fish. Todd, you had mentioned that there's a reason that there's fish in this area. Do you think there's enough for this to hold up?
I certainly think Jason Reyes believes so, and we're going to talk about him as this day goes along. He's from Texas. He understands grass. He had a really good first day, 22-10, backed it up with the biggest stringer of the tournament yesterday on day 2, 27-4. He had a 7-pounder, a 6-pounder. He had another one over 5 late in the day that really boosted his weight. But Jason is fishing really slow, really methodical, doing something different than I think anybody we're going to see on live today. Looking forward to watching Jason and see if he can back up 27 pounds here on day 3.
Absolutely, and what we're definitely going to see today is a lot of different styles of fishing, which has been fun. John Cox up shallow, Jason Reyes, that kind of mid-depth, and then the guys out on the ledges. So it's really been a diverse type of fishing going on here, and you guys are going to get to see that all unfold live because we've got 6 cameras out on the lake right now with our top 6 anglers. Of course, the top 10 will be moving on to fish tomorrow, the final day here. And we got a fun show today. We're going to be meeting up with Tom Reddington on his Tackle Warehouse take on the lake a little bit later. And we are live on all 3 platforms right now, YouTube, Facebook, and FLWfishing.com. But we will only be going for 1 segment on those social platforms. So after this first segment this morning, we will be moving over to just the FLWfishing.com site, where you can always get the most complete coverage. We've got the unofficial leaderboard there and also little blog updates throughout the day. So make sure you guys keep that in mind. But it's time to watch some live fishing, guys. Let's take a little look here at our top 30. Some of the anglers making some moves so far, which has been the story. Some guys have those active fish first thing in the morning, and some have to wait a little bit later in the day for those fish to turn on. And now our first live look, we're going to head down to Cole Floyd, weighing in 26 pounds, 2 ounces on day 2.
I'm over in the area where I caught a 9 and a 7. Dang near, so kind of try to expand that little area. There's not much here that I'm just a little depth change with some. It's actually got bottom, a little drill mixed in.
Trying to get some audio here on Cole Floyd. You're looking at one of the young rising superstars in this sport, getting an early look at him already with a 5-fish limit, 11 pounds to start his day and get him off to a fast start. 23 years old. Cole Floyd is from Ohio, Marty. Grew up fishing the Ohio River, ended up going to Bethel University. His dad bought a house down on Kentucky Lake about 5 years ago, and this guy has been studying, working, spending hundreds of hours out on Kentucky Lake and Gunnersville. He understands this TVA chain. You kind of expected him to have a good week, Marty. And what do you see with this young guy? And by the way, I know you have history with his dad, Steve Floyd. We're going to talk about that later today. But what do you see from a young guy like Cole Floyd in his first super tournament, fishing against all these Major League Fishing stars?
Oh, composure. Composure. You said a key term there, 23 years old. This kid's got a couple more classes to finish college. I spent a lot of time last night, and you're right, I know his dad, Steve, him and I were All-American qualifiers together, and his dad's a 3-time All-American qualifier, which Cole this year is heading to the the BFL All-American as well, too. But you look at a guy like Jacob Wheeler and where he's at in his career, and you go, how did it happen? And you look back and you look at the resume, and there was the foundation. And when I went back and did a deep dive last night on Cole Floyd, the resume's there. The success is there. 2018 Carhartt College Series champion, 2-time Boat USA Cabela's College champion, a Toyota Series on Kentucky Lake. He was a runner-up, okay? The guy that won that particular event, it was a June event, happened to be Jason Lambert, who's one of the kingpins of TVA. And the only reason Floyd finished second net is he had 2 fish deceased. So he would have won that event. This kid can flat catch them.
I lost a great big giant. It was I'd be around 9 or 10 pounds, and I caught a 9 and 7, so they're up there schooling. About to get these up there and catch one of them.
When I talked to Steve last night, we keep hearing this Bethel University. When we hear Bethel and all these stud anglers are coming out of there, and I'm like, Steve, what's going on? And he won good school, Kentucky Lake, but he made a very interesting comment. These kids want to go where the best young fishermen are. It's the Ohio State and the Alabama of the bass fishing world.
Very true. Cole's hooked up.
Now over to Jacob Wheeler. Guy that has certainly caught the most fish on live so far.
Had a little bit of fun, this is the thing with 150 less boats on the water, 150 plus less boats on the water, really allows for me to run around. I can't, it's hard for me to fish community holes with 6 or 7 boats because you can't make the right cast, you can't figure out where they're at. But with, I got 2 of my good buddies right here, Adrian Avina and Mark Daniels. Started here this morning, switch it up a little bit. Place that's just typical community place, but there's a lot of fish here, and for reasons, community holes are community holes for a reason. There's more bass that live on community holes than any sneak hole, that's for sure. So it's just figuring a way to trigger those bites. And so Mark's already got a good bag, Adrian's got a couple of them. But it's just, that's the biggest thing. I was hoping I could steal a few decent ones first thing in the morning here and then sort of go throughout my progression. We got 2. If we catch 3 6-pounders, we got 2 we could keep. But if we don't, then we got to get rid of them.
When I talked to Wheeler last night, this was absolutely part of his plan. You want to get to day 3, let the lake get cleaner, 150 less boats off the water, and now a lot more water opens up. And I asked him, I said, can this thing be won on a community hole? He said 100%. And he's hooked up again.
seen him there. I couldn't get him to bite that scrounger though. Littles. Slim Jim.
We've got Jacob Wheeler on the leaderboard still at 0 fish, but he actually has had some action. He does have some in the live well right now, and let's take a look at our Phoenix replay at some of those catches first thing this morning.
Well, you'll watch him throughout the day go through a progression of baits to be able to trigger these fish to bite. We saw first one there, it looked like on,
4-pounder.
on a vibrating jig. I'm pretty sure that was on a scrounger. It's just, he'll give them a multitude of different looks to be able to trigger these fish into biting.
Because that's how they were set up. There's more of them in one cast where you could sit there. Y'all need to just probably slide over this way. And then you cast across it and you hit the whole school.
And Todd, we say community hole, so let's explain that a little bit further. And to me, here's what I say, or I visualize. The electronics are so good. There's certain places on all these TVA lakes that when you've got the GPS map and you're using electronics, it's obvious as the nose on your face. There's a lot of fish always on these areas. Seems like it gets a lot of traffic. It's the obvious place that gets fish time and time again. And the reason it does is because there's so many fish there. Thus the word community hole. But it's a community hole for a reason. They live there and they continue to replenish.
Yeah, what's really cool right here is you're watching friends that, they're teaching each other how to get this school fired up, and they're catching them. They're making quick work of this group of fish this morning. But you're right, Marty, and what's unique about Chickamauga is unlike Pickwick and Kentucky Lake and maybe even Gunnersville, there's not, it's more of a river. It's more of a river. When you get down to the nuclear plant in this area of the lake, it starts to widen out. You've got a lot of spawning bays, a lot of really fertile habitat that's around these areas. But when you get to late June and you get to the summertime, these fish want to be out there where there's current running through along the main river. These are the major current breaks. Giant right there by Mark Daniels, who's had a great morning. But they get out there around those current breaks. You can see the buoy right there, and the fish get out there. They want to be around the oxygen. They have to be on the current break, Marty. There's stumps. There's probably some rock in this area, and bait fish. The northern strains, this F1 hybrid, they're going to stay around the food, and that's where it congregates on Chickamauga around these community holes.
Mm-hmm. And Wheeler on purpose kept a few of them in his rotation the first 2 days. But he would stop on ones that would open up, meaning there wasn't no boats on them, and did some damage. But he told me last night, now that this lake's freed up, it's going to allow him to add more places. We hear him talk about a rotation all the time. So this is just going to let him add more spots to his rotation. And it goes back to what I talk about on these offshore tournaments. He's turned into not only a great fisherman, he's a tactician. There's a method to the madness. Not only in where he stops, but the bait selections he goes through as well. Because he said, you look on his deck of the boat, and there'll be 14 rods laying there, and it's just to give them different looks.
Get a look right there over Jacob's right shoulder. You can see that Sequoia nuclear plant in the background. It's like a beautiful morning on the Tennessee River.
I want to fish it, but All right, your boy's out. Catching him up, guys. I'll stop in and say what's up. Oh, let's ride. What's that? Not real far now.
Now over to our leader to start the morning, Jason Reyes. 22 pounds, 10 ounces day one. Day two, 27 pounds, 4 ounces.
Gonna get a new bait here.
It looks like we're going to get a glimpse of how he's rigging this thing up. That was definitely something he was contributing the success to, was the weight he was putting in the tail of these Senkos.
Got 3 so far, nothing big, but I have been getting quite a few bites, so that's got me interested. All right.
Now look at John Cox there on the right. This is interesting that he still has 0 fish. Both mornings he's been able to get some frogfish first thing.
We caught a couple small ones. There were so many fish yesterday funneling in there that there's got to be something out here, and the hydrilla feels out here. Believe if we find the right little cast out here, that when those fish decide to filter back in here, we're gonna catch them.
So, I mean, I'm crawling the bait. Like, I'm not even crawling, I'm literally letting it sit there until the salt comes out of it. It's probably painful to watch, but all of a sudden I'll just pick up and walk off with it.
So how long do you have to let one set for the salt to leave? Is that a physics question or biology
I've personally
question?
never done that and couldn't even get close. I'm speechless. I
That's
have
a
no clue.
Texas thing. I am convinced
clue.
that's a Texas thing.
Now we're seeing John fish a different angle right now. When I talked to him last night, his magic spot where he seems to catch all his big fish is to the left of him on the inside up shallow in about 8 inches of water. These fish are up chasing bluegill and things like that. But what he kept noticing is these fish were so healthy, he doesn't think those are resident shallow bass. He thinks they're coming from somewhere. So today it was going to be all about trying to figure out where they're coming from, and if he can move out and find out where those fish are hanging out a little bit deeper, he thinks he's going to unlock a big part of this bite, and he thinks that could really be the difference maker. And actually was saying he was the most excited so far in this tournament to go out this morning because he really feels like he's got some things to go on.
Correct me if I'm wrong, he's got 41-12, and that area that he's caught these fish out of is no more than 50 yards long. And if he jumped out of the boat, he'd be hard-pressed to get his thighs wet.
Yes, exactly. And what he thinks is happening is that when the water goes up throughout the day, that these fish are moving up shallow later on in the afternoon, in the night, and as the water drops down throughout the night, it's dropping actually about 8 inches, he's saying. That every day he comes out in the morning, it's 8 inches lower than it was in the evening or late afternoon. So his fish are moving up, and there's still some left shallow in the morning, and they eventually move back out deep. And then as the water comes back in later on in the afternoon, those fish are moving back up shallow.
Kind of like a tidal flow.
Yes. And he says the only reason he knows that there's an 8-inch difference is because he's fishing in about 8 inches of water. So he gets there in the morning and there is no water where he was trying to fish.
Marty, when I talked to John, after practice, his main concern was, I just don't know if there's enough fish up shallow to get me through multiple days of this event. I think he's been thankful to have the first 2 days that he's had, but I think he knows maybe that shallow water pattern is running out of gas. And so what you're seeing this morning is him making an adjustment. He's trying to figure out where are those fish going, where are they coming from. That area he's in is notorious for being a great spawning area. There's a lot of bluegill that spawn in that area, a lot of good shallow cover. But traditionally, this is a ledge area that those fish move out to. And we don't know. Is John catching some late spawners, some fish that are up around bluegill beds? You talked of a mayfly hatch that's happened through practice and leading into this event too.
Yeah, him catching fish shallow in this event and others do it didn't shock me, but unlike a springtime event where fish funnel into an area and you can fish a small area and they keep coming to you, I truly thought the anglers that were going to be successful shallow were going to have to cover a large volume of water because they wouldn't reposition, but leave it to John Cox to find the one area in the lake, the 150-yard area stretch in the lake that they want to swim to and keep rotating. That's what's just jumped off the page at me. Him having 41 pounds of fish. We're almost to July in a 50-yard stretch that's less than a foot deep. And I wonder, because this lake's known for having springs, I wonder if there's not a spring somewhere in this general area. Add to that the mayfly hatch that's happening first thing in the morning, because we've seen a morning or two him doing a little bit of damage, but he'll have to pick up the pace today. He will absolutely if he wants to keep up.
Yep. While John Cox is looking for these fish, we're going to actually head over to a Phoenix replay of Cody Meyer hooking up here.
And catch one. Feels like a decent one. It's funny, we're just not catching much and decided to move around. I was just telling that story about live scope, but literally came back off. We're fishing all on this big point, this flat, and marked another group of them out here. Fired over there and got it. Old Garmin Panoptics, live scope. Feels like a nice one. Feels like a nice one. Yeah, it's funny, this spot, there's just not a lot of bites. But there's some quality, so it's hard to leave. Yeah, it's a 4-pounder. Come on, girl, let's get in here. Take you back to Dayton. There we go. There we go. Hey, that will work. The last two have been good ones. These are what I had yesterday. You know, these are just solid ones. 4-pounders, close to it anyways, high 3. That's the kind we need. Mixed in with some big ones. Make sure that's number 5. That's it. That was fun. Again.
Now we're on a live look. Cody Meyer with 5 fish. Our score leaderboard has not been updated, but he's doing quite well so far this morning.
It's funny. I mean, I don't know what it's like with the most of the guys at Bass, but yeah, you know, that was another nice one. You know, close to 4 pounds. But what we're doing, we're fishing this main river little point that comes off, and there's a little creek that flows back in here, and just a little bar out here that yesterday I came here and I ended up catching 3 really nice ones, 3 like that, you know, 4-pounders to start the day. So a spot I wanted to start on the first day, and you know, there's boats all over it. And yesterday it was boat 164. Came down and got on it and caught those fish. And it's weird because there's really no current, but they're just set up, you know, how they should be. And every once in a while you get a bite. Like I say, I've caught two nice ones so far here. You know, two of the kind that we need if we get a limit of those to at least make that top 10. So it's a grind. I mean, it's not like we're getting a lot of bites, but getting a couple nice ones to start the morning.
What Cody told me about his practice was he spent 3 days idling around. He's one of the anglers that we talked about being out in front of the electronics curve. One of the better anglers that we have over at MLF on the electronics. And he told me he only caught 5 fish all practice. And that was by design, because he was looking and looking and looking. And then he self-admitted, he said, Marty, everything I'm fishing is some of the biggest community holes on the lake. And he was talking to Michael Neal, and Neal made the comment, I'm not going to do that. And Cody's like, why wouldn't you? There are community holes on this lake for a reason, but it's his technique. His technique is it's going to be a Nico rig or a drop shot, and with the lack of current that's being pulled, he's catching these fish early by finessing them into biting, and he's known for light line, so he feels like he can go to any of these community holes, pull in behind any amount of fishermen, and still generate the bites. And yesterday, he said he got the first glimpse of the potential that's on this lake right now.
Yeah, it's a good point, Marty. We talked about yesterday with Justin Lucas, the West Coast anglers having that versatile side. They really are exposed to a lot of different fisheries up there in Northern California. Cody Meyer is well known in Northern California for his finesse techniques, and obviously we're seeing that be a big benefit right now for him.
And Cody spent 9 years on the FLW Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit, 10 FLW championship appearances. a long list of accomplishments, and just he's really confident out there. I mean, that's the one thing when you get out in these community holes, if you don't know how to catch them, and you look to your left and see Jacob Wheeler, or look to your right and see Mark Daniels, and when you see these guys around, if you don't know how to catch them, it can really play with your mind. You know, it can make you want to pick up the trolling motor and go somewhere else. But that, with Cody, he's got a lot of confidence. This isn't his first ledge tournament, and you're right. He's hooked up again, or almost hooked up, had a bite. Strike King finesse plastics, he said, was a key, and using his electronics and just catching them one at a time.
It's a little sweet spot right there. You can tell these fish are pressured. I mean, you know, 5-6 inch little worms, and they're biting the tail, and it's not what you think. I mean, there's big ones in here. So you're thinking coming here and throwing big swim baits, and you know, you can when they first move out here, but unless you know something special, for me anyways, it's hard to get them to bite anything that's not finessey. I mean, I've caught some on a hair jig and swim bait a little bit, but mostly it's all dragging worms. That's a low bottom.
Cody Meyer finished 14th here, Marty, in 2015, and kind of building on his success at Chickamauga.
We talked a little bit about Cole Floyd this morning already. I know both you guys are big fans of this young angler. Day one weighed in 17 pounds, 12 ounces, but then day two brought in one of the biggest bags of the entire tournament, 26 pounds, 2 ounces, and potential for more. Lost what he's saying was an 8 or 9 pounder at the boat. But this morning, it seems like he's right back where he left off yesterday. Let's take a look at this replay right now. And guys, what are you seeing out of this angler?
What jumps off to me is yes, he's offshore, but it looks like he's concentrating more, when we've talked about this a lot this week, that mid-depth. And it's focusing in on the drains and ditches around the Harrison Bay area. We see him catching some fish on a 10-inch worm here. But here's what really stands out to me. Young angler, composure, great demeanor, showing up in one of the biggest stages that he's ever fished in his life and performing at a very high level.
He's been really confident. I mean, this is something that he's kind of polished, if you will, over the last 5 years at Kentucky Lakes. He knows how to get away from the crowd, and you know what he said to me last night is, man, I don't like fishing around other people. I don't think it can be one fishing on a community hole around other people. I'm looking for something special, and obviously he's got more than one area, but he said, man, I got one place that there's just a lot of fish on it. There's big fish around. He caught a 9-pounder and a 7-pounder in the same area yesterday. So a quick start for Cole Floyd here on day 3, working up to that 12-pound mark, making a case for fishing on Championship Friday this week, day 4 here on Lake Chickamauga.
Of all the accolades, and then we'll keep going on and on. I think I'm going to start an agency where I can represent these young anglers, and he'll be the first client I sign up. Oh, wow. Ooh. That's a good one. 3-time LBL points winner. And when you can win a points title in the LBL, you're an offshore hammer.
That's the right kind right there.
How to move areas. I found this in practice. I actually haven't even fished it yet, so in the tournament today, I was like, well, when I found practice, I made a couple casts on them. They wasn't even that big, so honestly, I almost kind of forgot about them, and I was like, I'm gonna go over and check them. And catching about every other cast there for a second. Caught a pretty good one. Caught like probably close to 3.5. 3 1/4. So I got 2 decent ones in there. I like to catch a couple more of them solid ones and get all that weight off my shoulders. See where they're at. Using that live scope to look around a little bit. It's my eyes under the water. Pretty bad to the bone. I'm lobbing this jig out there with a luge rod and a Pro TI. Loads up on these fish with the Strike King jig. Got a Strike King menace on it. Stroking that jig out there. Old school. Trying to get a bite.
Bottom right there, the screen, Dakota Hebert, one of the most consistent anglers in the top 10 right now so far in this tournament. Day 1, 18.5, and day 2, 19.2. So under a pound separating day 1 and 2, where the majority of the field, you were kind of seeing a lopsided day. They had one really good day and then one decent day. So, you know, guys like Brian Thrift, we've seen over the years be very consistent like that and creep up the leaderboard each of the 4 days. And we're kind of seeing that out of Hebert right now as well.
We saw him get a couple schools fired up yesterday, and it gave me some hope that he was around one of those mega schools. Tell you what stands out to me, though, right now. I look there at the bottom left, and I'm at Cody Meyer. He's the old man of the bunch at 37.
Unbelievable.
I mean, ancient in this field. And the youth movement is just, it's so strong right now. Did you guys watch the weigh-in yesterday with Chris Jones when Cody Meyer's wife, yesterday was his anniversary, and she sent him, and the FLW staff got it together, a happy anniversary. They had her on FaceTime on the phone. He got to speak to her on the stage, and he was sitting there with the mic and Chris Jones with balloons in his hands. He said it was one of the more embarrassing moments he had, but she'd done the same thing to him about 4 or 5 years ago at an FLW event at Lake Champlain.
They wouldn't touch a crankbait or a hair digger or anything. Kind of weird, honestly, but just try to hop this jig up in front of one of these. Not many guys. There's not many guys that, you know, cutting down to 50. It's like, I mean, it's wide open for anyone. So a lot of schools are going to open up for people. Someone's going to get on one of those community holes and crack a bag. I guarantee it.
Good fish there from Hebert, and we're going to get a little look at what he's got so far in the live well as well. Or maybe not.
Yeah. Two and a half. Yeah. I appreciate it, man. Thank you. There's a big pile of them sitting right behind you there. I know they all over it, really, though. All right. Man, I appreciate it. I won't be here long, I promise. I can go that way so they'll have some room. Okay. Good morning, guys. It's been a morning. First spot, pulled up and got them fired up, and I decided to try to boat flip a 6-pounder and flopped it off the side of the boat. So I think I finally got over the nausea of that. We've restarted the day. We've got 2 keepers in the box, made a move, and locals were nice enough to let us fish. So we got one, just caught one here. There's a big pile of them, so maybe we'll go ahead and get 5 in the box and get the day going in the right direction. That spot this morning, those fish, they were set up pretty good when I first graphed over them, but after I lost that big one, they scattered. I think everybody that fishes offshore, no, golly, that fish almost took the rod out of my hand. Everybody that fishes offshore knows that when you start losing them on them schools, they tend to disperse. But maybe they'll set back up. There's obviously definitely big ones there. And there's a lot of fish right here, so maybe we'll catch a big one or 2 here. That fish almost took my rod away. Really appreciate these guys letting me come fish. He said he's walleye fishing, said he didn't mind it at all, so I really appreciate that. But again, hi to all my family and friends. Thank y'all for watching. I know the guys at Tackle Addict been sitting in there watching. They've been hanging out and probably need to be working. Shane, you need to get on them. I know Wyatt ain't doing nothing. You probably done fired him 3 times already today, and it's only 7:30, but just want to say hello to everybody. Big shout out to Tiger Creek Lodge there at Sam Rayburn. If you are looking for a place to stay, it's a phenomenal fishery. Everybody knows that. Tiger Creek's the place to be. And definitely, Leak Sealers, thank y'all for all y'all's support.
Did I say yesterday I like this kid? In a minute, he's going to tell us about some hunting spots, too, and I'm really going to like this kid. And he's a man after my own heart. He tried to boat flip a 6-pounder.
Right.
And before the world panics, how could someone do it? Let's remember, 2016, he was fishing the college series.
That first one's 2, and then I got one that's 2.5, so I got 4.5 with 2. I did catch a walleye, though. Should have gave it to them. I don't know if it was a keeper or not. I've been able to get on a lot of this community hole stuff up here on the north end of the lake. I say north of the lake, it's really mid-lake, but north of where everybody's fishing, upriver, where all the community, well, I can't even say that because this is a huge community hole. Everybody knows about it, but it seemed like everybody wanted to race down there to Harrison Bay. And all this stuff's been left wide open, so everybody's hitting on the way back in, but in the mornings it's been pretty open, so I've been taking advantage of that every day.
All right, guys. One angler that I promise you didn't try to boat flip a fish is Jacob Wheeler. We've got a Phoenix replay teed up here. Once we see what's going on here.
Dakota's putting his third keeper in the boat here this morning, making work on these Chickamauga ledges.
We saw him get a couple schools fired up yesterday, so it tells me he's around the right quality and the right number of fish, and he's figured out the cast to be able to get them fired up.
Now, our Phoenix replay with Jacob Wheeler hooked up with a huge fish here.
Big. Oh, gosh, don't do it. That's a big, I mean, that's a full-grown one right here. Like, for sure, full-grown. Oh, my gosh, you see how big that sucker is? Oh! This is like a dang 9. This is a 9-pounder. It's an 8 or 9 pounder. It's 8 or 9 pounder. Oh my gosh. Please, baby. Please. Don't do it to me. Come in easy. Oh my gosh, the 10. It's a gosh dang 10 pounder. It's a 10 pounder, dude. I swear it's a 10 pounder. Oh my gosh! Are you kidding me? It's a freaking giant. Oh my gosh! Yeah, baby! Unreal! It's a gosh dang 10 pounder! It's a gosh dang 10 pounder! Unbelievable! Oh, it's like a little baby. That's bigger than my daughter. Unreal! Dude, that is a giant. Oh my gosh, thank you, Lord. We said we need a big one. I think that classifies as a big one. Oh my gosh. You guys want to get a weight on this one? I'm gonna tell you straight up right here. Don't want to know. This might be one of the biggest I've ever caught. $9.87. $9.87. 10. It's going back and forth between. What? It's like $9.92. One. Number one. Oh my gosh. $9.92. I got something for y'all. Let me put this little big girl in here. Let me think here. I mean, I don't know what it is. I'm trying to think of it. Ding, that one right there, gosh dang big one. Gosh dang big one. That's a gosh dang big one. That's a gosh.
You tuned into live today to see some big fish. There it is, first thing this morning.
Wheeler's dropping some Tennessee bombs.
Oh my gosh. We've seen 8s, 9s. Do you just round that up and call it a 10?
If you're JT Kinney, it's absolutely a 10 pounder. If it ever gets above 9.8 and it gets in the teens and ounces, you call it straight up 10. Jacob Wheeler just showing us how it gets done. That's probably going to be a Berkeley big bass.
Oh, wow, absolutely amazing. And Jacob Wheeler might be just getting started right now. Guys, that does it for our live coverage on Facebook and YouTube. If you want to see some more big bass catching action, head over to FLWfishing.com, where we're going to continue our live coverage here on Lake Chickamauga for stop number 4 of the Tackle Warehouse Pro Circuit Super Tournament when we return.